The Truthful Lie. Mandisa Caroline Yukuma. A story written and read by Mames Ovuyo. Chapter 1. Introduction. I, Mandisa Caroline Yukuma, about to tell you a story of how I made it possible when it seemed impossible. As we all know, every story starts and ends, but this one starts where it ends. 7 years ago, at an age of 19, graduating from high school, I had a dream. Everybody does, but not everybody has the courage to fight for it. Every student studies hard in high school in pursuit of fulfilling their dreams, but honestly speaking, plus minus 30% of these students make it through. They make it possible when it seemed impossible. As for the rest, they end up changing careers, making bad decisions. Some don't even try, and I was one of them. Growing up as a young girl with my mother Ntombesine Yukuma and my father Hlelekile Yukuma, I had a dream of being an accountant, and so I studied accounting in high school. George Knox High School in Johannesburg, 15 kilometers from my village, Shepstone Village. Well, I was a mediocre, but my mother would always encourage me. She would often call me my beautiful silver coin. Why? You obviously read my middle name, but I'm sure you didn't bother breaking it down. Caroline. It's simple. It's a name given to a female. But in reality, it's not just a female name. Caroline comes from Caroline. Historically means an old silver coin of Italy. Now you know. In this story, I become the silver coin. Chapter 2. Persistence. I remember walking home extremely excited about my grade 12 results. I had a distinction in accounting, and I knew my parents were going to be blown away by this, and they were. A month later, a letter came in from the University of Johannesburg. Sadly, my application was rejected. Now, in most cases, or most people tend to give up once they find themselves in a situation like this, but I didn't. I couldn't. I was addicted to it, so I ended up taking part-time jobs that were related to navigating me towards my dream. Time went by and I was continuously sending applications to the university, but I just couldn't get in. Continuously taking part-time jobs and had moved out of my home renting an apartment in Johannesburg was the hardest task of all. I wasn't used to it, and because of my obsession with becoming an accountant, I pushed hard. As a result, I would walk right past opportunities as long as they weren't going to lead me towards my dream. They were useless to me. You see, the idea of being persistent on your dreams alternatively opened doors, narrow alleyways. You end up with blinkers in your eyes. You see nothing else but yourself standing where you always wanted to be. I'll be honest with you. I had everything mapped out, but I wasn't really honest to myself. One of the things I never considered was self-honesty. I wasn't in pursuit of becoming an accountant, but I was in pursuit of something else, something far more precious and rigid. Chapter 3. Finding Caroline. One day, I was sitting on my computer in search for an accounting course. A pop-up showed up at the bottom of my screen. Now, I usually ignore pop-ups. In fact, they made me sick to my stomach. But the caption of that pop-up caught my eye. It was a question. What are you really searching for? In my thoughts, I was like, okay, Mr. Google, I'll tell you. I'm searching for a way of achieving my goals. I want to be wealthy. Though it took me time to type wealthy, embarrassing as it is, I honestly didn't know how to spell it. I stood up and asked myself again, what am I really searching for? My mind said wealth, but I don't know how to spell it. I didn't even know what it meant. As I was struggling to myself trying to answer this question, another question came up. Am I really honest to myself? Do I really want to be an accountant? Or I just want to be rich? The silver coin, my name, Caroline. I don't want to be an accountant. I want to be rich. Excited as I was of finally finding Caroline, another question came up. How? How do I become rich? Well, that's the $1 million question. A question I couldn't answer. I had no means of being rich. You don't just become rich just by simply saying, I want to be rich. The fact that I have found what I really wanted, who I believe to be capable of, and becoming, and being able to finally spell wealthy. It didn't make me wealthy at all, but it opened a new stream, a new me, a new way of thinking. Chapter 4, starting from the bottom again. Hence the caption, starting from the bottom again. I had to. I started from the bottom again. I wasn't Googling for courses nor universities for furthering my studies as an accountant, but I taught myself how to become wealthy. One evening, I decided to walk to my apartment from work. It was a bit windy, but I needed some air, some alone time to myself. As I was walking, I walked past a park. There was like about 10 girls sitting there with books everywhere on the ground. Why would they sit outside on this wind? So I decided to ask them. Mandisa. Hey girls, what are you studying? Students. Law. It's a lot of work and you're writing an exam tomorrow. Mandisa. Shame, man. On this wind, you're studying outside. Students. Yeah, we don't have much of a choice. We honestly don't have a place to study. And we live far apart from each other and far from the campus as well. Mandisa. Wait, this is not right. Come on, guys. You can study in my apartment. I could see the happiness through the glitter of their eyes. They excitedly agreed on my proposal. At first, I thought letting my generosity get over me will destroy me, the eager of developing a new way of being rich. Instead, I was going to have a bunch of students occupying my space. On the following week, while at work, I received a call from one of the students that studied in my apartment. They asked if they could borrow my apartment for the upcoming weekend. Well, I was off on weekends, so I said yes. I'll visit home and be back on Monday morning for work. It didn't really go well at home. I spent the whole weekend trying to explain to my parents the new me. My mother didn't mind, but my father was all up in my case from Friday till Monday morning. I felt useless somehow because he said a lot of discouraging things and made a lot of examples of people he knew that had these crazy ambitions. I remember him saying, wealth is for white people, Mandisa. Stop fooling around and focus on furthering your studies. Not arousing words indeed. Chapter 5. Generosity became the key. On the Monday morning, as I walked into my apartment, there was an envelope on top of the table from the students. I opened it. Honestly, I was shocked of what I found inside there. 1,000 rand and a note that said, "We all thank you for your kindness." Okay, I just made 1,000 over a weekend. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. Students talk and share a lot of information to each other. Why am I saying this? Because I started receiving calls from different students asking to use my apartment as a study room for a weekend. Again, I agreed and went back to my discouraging father. Yada 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 yada. We would like argue the whole day about me choosing greed over studies. I again went back to my apartment and the white envelope was there again. Another 1,000 rand. Damn. Okay, I told myself I need to focus on this, so I phoned them and gave them permission to use it on all weekends. And not only 10. They can be as many as they want as long as they won't make any noise around the building. More students joined in. More and more kept on calling me. I'm sure by now you get the idea of what I'm about to do. I did the whole month and ended up with 5,600. The difference between the money I made from the students and the money I worked for was 400 rand. Yes, father, I was greedy because I ended up renting another room as more students kept on coming and coming. Chapter 6. The beginning of the end. As you now know what I was dealing with, it became a problem because I was now losing control of the students. Some would come drunk and some would bring drugs and smoked weed in my apartment. Bad for business? Definitely not, but bad for the landlord. I still had to pay someone as I was getting paid too. Now, this is where it started. Remember me saying all stories starts and ends, but this one starts where it ends. I bet you do. This was the start of my student accommodation. 4 years later, I bought an abandoned building a block away from my old apartment. Why the caption, The Truthful Lie? It's simple. There's no such person as Mandisa Caroline Yukuma. Nothing like this happened or yet has happened. Who knows? Maybe you now, while reading this fable, can be Mandisa Caroline Yukuma. Think about it. Be honest to yourself. Know what you want. Try to be persistent, but keep your eyes open for other opportunities as well. Be addicted. Be generous and patient. Ask yourself the what are you searching for question. Know yourself.